This is my first time racing the Zwift Women's Grand Prix. This is like the top level of racing in Zwift. I've never done anything this hard. Obviously, I signed with the Movistar eTeam very recently, and I'm getting a taste for just how powerful some of the women are in this world. We've already done race one, which was a points race. Unfortunately, the results from that are discounted because of this problem with the steering, and it was meant to be disabled, but it got like enabled during the race. So the points don't count for that one, which is great because I didn't score any anyway. Friday, we had our second race, which was basically a time trial up Alpe Du ZWIFT. To score points at the finish line, you had to finish within 7 minutes of the first person across the line, which, if you look at some of the power outputs of these women, wasn't going to be an easy task. For me, I wasn't sure if I'd make it, but this is how it went. So the countdown is on. I was not paying attention and still checking that everything was like all set to go when the gun went off, so I hadn't spun up my watts. And yeah, there's my little panic face and my panic watts, but it's okay because I'd entered the pen early before I did my warm-up, so I was already at the front. So here a couple of people were going off the front trying to do an early attack, I assume so that they could get to the first sprint points and collect max points, but doesn't work out for them. Our instructions from the DS were to stay in the group, which we did, and it was definitely the right call because I think it only took about a minute for the group to catch them. There's just so much aero advantage being in such a big bunch, especially when, you know, we're not climbing yet either. So yeah, we caught them in basically no time at all. And there they are, being caught and coming back into the fold. So we're about 5 kilometers in now. The climb is starting, which sees the power go up and stay up for the remainder of the race. So this is the Road to Sky course on Zwift, which is modelled after the Alpe d'Huez in France. So it's pretty cool. On the right-hand side, they number the switchback, so you know how many turns you have left. And then on the left-hand side, they have your time for each segment. I also had never noticed this before, but they have your PR there too, so that's kind of cool. So basically what I'm doing now, pushing like 300 to 400 watts, is not a good pacing strategy for me. My FTP is much lower than that in terms of watts, but what I was thinking is that I would stay in with this front group that was forming to have a chance at the first sprint, knowing that I might not make the time cut on this climb. So watching it back, it's obvious that that plan's not really going to work, and I should have just paced it from the bottom of the climb to the top, and I would have got a much better time overall, better placing, and gotten more points for the team. So that would have been the better strategy, but of course sometimes you just don't know that until you give it a shot. So like this group that I'm sort of in, so I'm sitting in about 20th position. So these 20 people, this pace that they're holding, for a lot of these women, they are that strong that it's not that much higher than what they will be able to hold for this entire climb. Their FTP might be, 5 watts per kilo, and depending on how much they weigh, like the pace that they're going now is pretty much the pace they'll do this whole climb in. So yeah, I die off. Spoiler alert. I think also because of my frazzled start, I hadn't thought this through very well in the moment, but obviously I should prepare for this by doing the research and figuring out what that disparity between my power and the top riders in this field are, and knowing what my limitations will be and what to expect. So very quickly, let me talk you through what happens in the morning before the race. So I'm waking up at about 4 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. depending on what time the race is, an hour and a half before my race, more or less. And this is a really vulnerable time of the morning, so I'm trying to wake up as late as possible because I do still need to get through a full day of work after the race. So I wake up, I make my breakfast. I don't eat it yet. I do my weigh-in video, then I eat my breakfast, then I have a look at the course, make a bit of a game plan. Probably should have already done that, but and then I set up all my tech, make sure I'm logged into Zoom, to Discord. I join the pen that opens 30 minutes before the start. Then I leave the pen, do my warm-up, and then re-enter the pen because it holds your position if you do that. record myself, do dual recording, so have that all ready to go. So there's quite a bit to think of and do in an hour and a half, and that's why I'm often kind of still catching up when I'm on the start line. I'll get better at it though with time. So now we've been going for almost 10 minutes. I've been pushing watts between like 300 and 400. So watts that are really like a 1 to 5 minute max effort for me. My FTP, which I've only ever tested really once, sat at around 270, and that was doing a 290 or 295 watt 20 minute. So I'm really going too far into the red here and need to start thinking about pacing. You'll notice I'm dropping my watts here. That was just because I was fatigued, not because I'd started thinking, oh, I should pace. That's something that only crosses my mind as I enter this tunnel because I am starting to fatigue quite rapidly. And I'm looking at my position. I'm still in 20th, and I thought maybe if I just start pacing now, I can hold this spot. But yeah, there's so many people in this race, like easing up just means that people that have paced from the start are going to start coming over me, which you can see happening already. So we're actually coming up to the first sprint banner. Here it is. So I just do one little last push for absolutely no reason to try and stick in with these people, because it looks like it might flatten out, and then it means I would get a little bit of a draft if I'm able to sit on the wheel. But I mean, it's all an illusion because it's still saying 8%. So here we are. I've really dropped down now. You can see my watts are sitting around 250. I think a lot of the time I did sit around 260. In the end, 260 was my average sort of watts. So yeah, when I was tired, it would drop to 240, 250, but I was able to hold that 260, 270 for a lot of the remainder of the race, which I'm quite impressed by personally, because I thought I was much weaker than that at the moment. But you can see, like, there's just so many people in this race, and yeah, like as soon as you start easing off, people start catching. So eventually my position just starts to drop and drop. Here I had a little mishap with the trainer dropping out. But I mean, they're probably going to get me anyway, so that's fine. Down to 27th position now. Still trying to stick in, having a little gel. Another person overtakes me. I'm into 28th. And there I had a little, like my trainer, it felt like the trainer difficulty switched off all of a sudden. So I started having to spin my legs really fast, as you can see, which, yeah, was not ideal because you sort of get into a rhythm and you find this, comfortable grind, and then to have that just like switch up on you is very off-putting, and yeah, not necessarily the best physiologically for you to perform, get the best result. Because I'm having to spin my legs faster, I feel like my heart rate sort of went up, obviously having to work a bit more, but is what it is. Eventually I think I sort of found a rhythm again, but my trainer, by the end you'll hear, was not happy with having to be in like some like the lower gears. I don't know, it just didn't like whatever was going on. So my teammate Lisa caught me. She did an amazing job and got a PB today on the climb. In the end, there was Lisa, myself. Mika was not far behind me, and she actually got points through that first sprint because she was up ahead in the group. And then we also had Hannah finish behind Mika and Sophie as well. So everyone did amazing efforts. Unfortunately, Hannah and Sophie didn't make the 7-minute time cutoff, like so close, but just didn't make it. So their points don't count. So these people I sort of like rode around for quite a while. These are sort of the people that I went into the finish with. So you can see there's only 3 corners left to go. So I'm starting to have to think about preparing mentally for that last push, which is really, really going to hurt. The people behind were closing in, so I knew that I couldn't slack off now. I couldn't afford to. So here we go, heading up to the final corner. I'm starting to hurt a lot, but really trying to keep the pressure on and keep the watts high. After this corner, it's the finale to the line, but it's still uphill and it's a very long way to actually crossing the line. So you can see that behind me, the person behind me is only 3 seconds behind, and the person in front is only 4 seconds in front, and then it starts to switch, and behind starts getting closer and in front starts getting further away. So it's so stressful. And our DS is in my ear telling me to push so that this person behind doesn't catch, but also to try and catch these people in front of me, because every place matters and means more points. And I was so close. So it got down to 1 second behind and 7 seconds in front, and I just had to go. So I just summoned whatever I had and started digging. And let me tell you, there's no worse feeling than at the end of this climb when the finish line is supposed to be there. You've turned to the last corner, but you cannot see it, and you are just climbing and climbing. And even on the mini map, you can't see the finish at all. So it's just like, how long do I have to push for? This is so hard. 300 watts. For me to be putting out 300 watts. You can see the winning time on the left, 41:52. Pushing 360 watts. I was going so deep. You can see the people in front getting closer, and you're just like trying to do anything you can. So I've gotten myself safely away from the chaser behind, but I still haven't caught these people in front of me, and the finish line is now in sight on the map. And there it is. So I crossed the line and I'm in 35th. So massive effort from the people that won this race. But I'm happy that, considering I sort of didn't execute the perfect race strategy, I still managed to do a time within the cutoff. So that was the biggest goal. And yeah, to get points for the team. So I was able to get 80 points, I think, from coming 35th. A shame I couldn't catch those 2 riders in front of me, and I wish I sort of had started digging sooner, but I also didn't want to dig and then die off completely and have more people come over the top of me. So I was sort of just trying to keep in a safe space. So looking at the data from the climb portion of the race, because let's be honest, that's what we're really interested in, It went for 47 minutes and 48 seconds and at a 263 watt normalized power. So I think considering I didn't pace this and, you know, there are a couple of tiny mishaps, I think that's a pretty accurate representation of where my capabilities are. I've predicted my FTP to be about 270 watts, so doing 263 for almost an hour, having not paced, is probably pretty accurate. I have done a faster time up this climb as well, so I think my PB is about a minute faster than this. So yeah, having paced it, I would have probably held higher watts more consistently, obviously. You can sort of see with the power profile how at the start I went really hard and then that sort of levels off and becomes more steady. You can see where the yellow line, that's my RPM. So it's surging upwards in the middle here where my trainer difficulty sort of turned off and the watts drop there because, obviously I'm not putting as much power through. And then you can see where I sort of find my rhythm again with a new cadence through to the end of the race and my bigger efforts at the finish. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with that. I think it's definitely a fair dig considering my capabilities. I was definitely hustling. So there you have the mountain points race. That was really painful and I'm glad it's over. The next one isn't for another 2 weeks, but it's a points race. So I'm really excited for that, way more up my alley. It'll be 6 laps of the Glasgow crit circuit with 2 sprints on each lap. And there's time points up to 10 on those. So it's going to be very exciting. Hopefully I can stay in sort of the top 10 of the group if there's a split, so that I am getting points and have something really exciting to report on in my next video, which you should be able to find on my channel in a few weeks' time. So for now I'm going to go and practice more races on Zwift.